Hi parents, my name is Ankita. I'm your positive parenting coach. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm not talking about anything educational. This video is about my pregnancy journey. I had covered a little bit in a snippet where I spoke about the fact that it was difficult for me to conceive. But I am going to tell you the entire story of how everything happened. So be ready to accept whatever I'm telling you because it's a lot. And I think it's a lot, which is why I have kind of pushed it to 8 months of my pregnancy to shoot, because the idea was to shoot this and share it much earlier, but I think I just wasn't ready any which way. So let's come to the point where we first talk about why we decided to have another child. So I'll tell you, when Aish was about 3.5, we were in Singapore, and sort of when we decided that, okay, actually I decided, sort of jumped in much later. But the whole idea was that, okay, let's have another child. And, things were easy for us at that point, and we thought it felt like the right time. And I remember that around that time, I was working with an IVF center to create a little more awareness about infertility in women. All right. And a couple of my friends were undergoing IVF. So that whole journey felt very personal. So what I did was, in the middle of my entire conversation with them, I realized that, I should also go check my AMH. Now, for those of you who don't know what is AMH, AMH is nothing but anti-mullerian hormone. So AMH combined with a blood test done on day 2 of your period cycle tells you where your fertility level is, right? So AMH is basically how fertile you are as per the age. But the correct number of eggs at day 2 actually tell you the exact picture of the count of eggs, which is really important. So I was there creating awareness for all the other women to go get their AMH tested. And I really didn't think there would be a problem with my AMH because I already had a child, right? But then I don't know, after the entire shoot was over, I don't know what came to my mind. I went and got my AMH tested. And to my shock and surprise, my AMH was 0.5. Now, 0.5 is supposed to be the AMH of, I think, a 38 to 40-year-old. Okay. And here I was. Now, that feeling of having a child became even stronger, knowing that I might not be able to conceive, right? Because my AMH was very low. Having said that, after I had a whole rant with my friends and I read more about it online, and then there were some success stories of AMH going up. There were some stories of women still conceiving in spite of low AMH. But I went and did another test just to cross-check the AMH. And now here's something very important. Whenever you're checking your AMH, you have to make sure you do it in a lab that has gold standards. Okay, so I again repeated the AMH at Newberg Diagnostics, which is very famously known as Anand Lab in Bangalore. And this is not my experience, but in my journey, I've shared this with a lot of women. Our collective experience has been that they have the most accurate level of testing. And if AMH is testing low, let's say in an IVF center, it will be more in Anand, which means there is something going on there. I don't want to get into that today. My gynac only trusts Anand, so she sent me to Anand Labs. I checked my AMH, which was not 0.5, it was 1. It was still low, but it was double of what I thought it was. So that gave me some hope. All right. So that was around 2.5 years ago in September. All right. When Aishka was 3.5, actually 2 years ago. And right now we are in July 2025. So exactly 2 years ago, right? So that's where my journey started. My doctor believes in science more than anything else. So she did not give me any medication. She did not do anything to improve my AMH. She basically just told me that go and try for 9 months and then come back to me. This is exactly what she had told me at 29, right? And it had worked back then. But then I don't know if you all are aware, Caucasian women have low fertility compared to other women, which basically means people who are Caucasian, people in India, our fertility at 35 is equivalent to fertility of other women, let's say American women, at 40, which basically means that, our eggs are getting depleted much faster, which was the whole point of the conversation, that women should get their AMH tested regularly, just like a regular blood test. So then if we know the AMH is on a decline, then we can obviously go and do something about it. It could be freezing eggs, or freezing embryos, or taking an informed decision, right? You at least need to know where your AMH is, and it has to be done regularly, like a blood test. And there's so much that can be done in terms of food, in terms of just maintaining good quality diet, and there are some medicines that do at least help you maintain your AMH. Having said that, egg count is what AMH gives you. Egg quality is very hard to determine. So if somebody has a low AMH but they have good egg quality, I think they would still get pregnant. But I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to get into more of this. All of this knowledge is coming from reading endless Reddit blogs and endless, watching endless YouTube videos. However, because my doctor did not give me any fertility medication, what I did was I went and researched on my own, and I started taking some medications. I'm putting that in the link in the description here. But I would highly, highly recommend you to go to a doctor and check it out. Two things that I realized have to be at really high level to get pregnant is vitamin D and B12, right? Which are any which way needed for the body. So those supplements anybody can go ahead and take. The other thing that I took was Ovacare A plus B. At some point, I was also taking CoQ 300. But having said that, I don't even remember the correct dosages right now, so I don't want to misguide you all. But I'm telling you, there are medications. If you're going to delay having a child, at least make sure your AMH is on point. Now again, women with PCOS and PCOD, their AMH will be above 4, above 5. That doesn't mean more fertility. That also means you need to get yourself checked. Coming back to the point, I was very sure that if I don't have a child by the time I'm 35, I'm going to go for IVF. I am mentally a very strong person. And at 30, in fact, after Aish was born and we were not really sure, I had in fact told Saurabh that, let me go freeze my eggs, we can make embryos, and then we can decide to have a child even after 10 years. But he was just not sure. And then I don't think I read much into it. Parenting got quite hard at, first to second year, and then I think I got swept away in that. And then we kind of dropped the idea of having the child altogether. So this is September 2 years ago. Kept on taking the medicines, kept on trying on and off. Nothing really worked. And then it was frustrating, quite frustrating, obviously, which is why when I had showed you guys in the last video, there were so many of the failed tests, because every month I thought I was pregnant, then I was not. And then all the reports were also haywire for me. Basically, my testosterone was going up because I was working out too much, and I really loved going to the gym, so I had to kind of stop doing that. The whole thing felt like a whole blunder, and I felt like a failure. Saurabh really didn't care. He said, we have Aishka, we don't need to worry about anything. But I think as a woman, I felt like my body failed me. So I kind of get, and looking at all my friends having babies gave me hope, but it also kind of made me feel that the clock is ticking. And I think it was a very, very hard period. Having said that, I really didn't know what else is in store for me. So I went from there. I was taking my medication. We were trying on and off. Saurabh also was traveling a lot, so I don't really know what was happening. It's all a blur right now. But last year, February, we were traveling to Bangkok. We were going for the Coldplay concert, and Aish was not with us. And at that point, my period cycle had become 24 days. So it was really hard to know when I was ovulating, when do we need to try. It was really all over the place. And I still remember that when I went to Bangkok, I was still on my period, and we went for 4 days, right? And then we came back from Bangkok. We had a gala time with our friends. The concert was amazing. And then at the end of March last year, I found out that I got pregnant, And that for me was the most amazing feeling, because it meant my body hasn't failed me. It meant that in spite of low AMH, in spite of everything, I got pregnant, right? I conceived, and I think I was very, very confident that it was all going to go well. But unfortunately, in April, which was about 8 to 9 weeks, April end, I was going to travel to my mom's place, and I just wanted to kind of get a scan done. And in between, I was really not that worried. So I had not gone for too many scans. I had done my heartbeat scan, which was all fine. I had started taking my folic. We had announced to every single person possible, because it was the most happiest moment of my life that I was pregnant again. We even told Aish that a baby might be coming. And my in-laws, my parents, my friends, whoever mattered knew about it. And I remember going for that scan at 9 weeks, and they told me that there was no heartbeat, and it just felt like, I just felt like my world is coming crashing. My world had come crashing, and there was no heartbeat. They called Saurav into the scan room. I remember that too clearly. I wish to forget that memory someday, but it was, I think, one of the hardest experiences of my life. I think it took me a couple of hours to even understand what had happened. But for me, the strongest feeling was that, I will have a baby. That's it. I kept my faith on. I remember in that room right there, taking out my phone and writing it down that there's a reason why this didn't happen, but it will happen. And it has happened, right? So I think faith kept me going. But having said that, whatever happened after was even more crazy, I would say. I did not want to do a DNC because they say that the lining becomes thin, and I definitely wanted to have another child. And they said the heartbeat had stopped at 8 weeks. So I could still do a MTP, which is medical termination of pregnancy at home, which meant taking some medicines to block the progesterone, and then 24 to 48 hours later, you take more medicines, which kind of make you bleed, and then everything, all the tissues are going to come out of your system. If you've gone through MTP, you know what it is. And I still had my music classes going on. So in spite of knowing that I will have to do this, I still went to my class. And I think one of the mums there then spoke to me, and she told me what exactly it's going to be like, because she kind of understood what I was going through. And so she told me that it's going to be the most painful period of your life. You need to have hot water bags. You need to have enough pain medication. I think she really prepped me, and the doctors had not prepped me. They just told me, come stay in the hospital and we'll give you pain management. And I really didn't want to do that in a hospital. And my in-laws were traveling. Only Saurav was there with me. I had no idea what was going on. And so after 24 hours of excruciating pain and standing in the shower for 5 out of those 24 hours, I think the tissues had left the system. And the next day I took a flight. I went to my mom's place. And then we had a trip booked to Europe. So we went to Europe, and I remember bleeding for 45 days. It was horrible. I mean, there's no other way to put it. It was the most horrible experience of my life. After I came back, my doctor made me do a test. It was a rubella blood test. Okay, so apparently, if your rubella vaccine is no longer working, and if you have not been vaccinated, you're most likely going to miscarry. Now, this was the funny part. My rubella was 14.8 or 13.8, and it is supposed to be either 14 or 15. So it was 0.2 less than borderline. So she made me take the rubella vaccine the night I flew out to Europe, and she told me that I cannot try for a baby for the next 2 months, because you cannot be on rubella vaccine and then try for a baby. It is again going to cause a miscarriage. So we took the rubella vaccine, I think at 10 o'clock. We flew out that night at 2 o'clock. Saurav, me, Aishka, we were on a trip. It was hard, but I think it was harder because Saurav did not feel that pain. For him, it was just, we found out, and a month later I was not pregnant. So I think I just had to deal with all of it on my own. Another friend of mine had gone through this in December, and we both were pregnant in Feb together again. So I had to deal with that. So there was a lot to deal with. Having said that, I could not try for 2 months, and I couldn't have anywhere. I was just bleeding all over the place, right? So that happened. After we came back, I think I stopped working out completely. I stopped going to the gym because, again, the testosterone was all over the place. The hormones were not okay. So I started doing my yoga, and I started, just walking or doing whatever else I could to maintain a healthy level of, fertility or whatever. And they say that you're most fertile after a miscarriage, but I missed that window to try because I was on the rubella vaccine, right? What happened after that? I don't remember the exact timeline, but then I got pregnant again. So this was my second pregnancy last year. And I went for a HCG blood test. The HCG was over the roof. I was clearly pregnant. And then I went for a heartbeat scan, and there was no heartbeat. Basically, it was a chemical pregnancy because 2 days later I got my periods, and I don't know why that happened, but at least it did not carry on to 8th and 9th week, because that would have shattered me. I don't know what gave me the strength, but I moved on from that episode very quickly. Also because my doctor told me this was a chemical pregnancy. I know a lot of women get shattered by chemical pregnancies also, but I think I had gone through something worse. So this really was very easy for me to push over and carry on. And then my work project started. Then what happened in September, around September, is when I started researching more. And I found out that a lot of women who do IVF and a lot of women who want to get pregnant doing acupuncture. That somehow really helps the lining, the endometrium, egg quality. And I found this clinic, Ayusha Clinic in Jayanagar. Now I live really far from Jayanagar, but I went for multiple sessions with them. And after every session, I would do a scan and I would see that the lining was improving. And the doctor there, the scan doctor, was amazing. And she gave me really good hope that it doesn't matter you have low AMH or whatever, you're going to get pregnant, And I think my AMH also went up, by the way. I did another AMH test and now my AMH was 1.3. So the whole roof of I have to do it by 35 came crashing because my AMH went up, which meant I don't have to put that pressure on myself. And I think life went on. We were doing scans and trying every month. It wasn't happening. So ultimately I had a trip booked with my girls this year, February. And I had decided that, okay, December is kind of the last month. And then January is my birthday month. And then Feb is trip with the girls, and then March is Europe. So let's just give it a break. And if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But I was no longer worried about 35 and worried about AMH. I think I just let it out in the universe. I always believed I will have another child. And I kept on doing my affirmations. December, I remember we didn't even try to have a baby properly. I don't even remember what really went on in December, but I remember partying a lot because it was December. I remember just having the time of my life. And on 31st December, I realized that, hey, hold on, I did not get my periods. It was the night of New Year's, and of course, I was going to go out again. So I checked, and we found out that I was pregnant. So that was the third time I was pregnant last year. And I don't know, maybe third time's the charm, like they say, right? So now we have shortcake ready here with us. I think what was really, really hard is what happened after, because I was so worried till I crossed that 12th week mark. But I think that is a story for another day in another video. And maybe we'll do it some other time. But what I wanted to tell you all is don't brush away your feelings if you've miscarried, is what I want to tell you. All your feelings are valid. A loss is a loss. It does not matter if it was a chemical. It does not matter if it was after 5 months. It does not matter if it was after 8 months. But I would also say that if universe out there has a plan for you, it's going to happen. And I would just say stay strong, have faith. If you are struggling with low AMH, I've given you enough information. See a good doctor, not one who pushes you towards IVF if you're not ready, but one who really cares for you and tells you how to improve your AMH. And just hang in there. And I'm pretty positive that all of you on the journey with me, and I'm pretty sure that all of you who are on a similar journey as me, things will work out for you as well. I like to have hope, and I want to give you some hope today. And for the rest of the stuff, we're going to do that in another video. If you think this was helpful, please share this with anybody who's trying to conceive, with anybody who's miscarried, with anybody with low AMH, so they can take the next steps accordingly. Thank you for watching, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.